Representative Schlegel moves to call Senate Bill 237 on notice given.
Without objection.
Senate Bill 237 by Senator Presley provides relative to industrial hemp regulation of industrial hemp powers, responsibilities of the commission, commissioner, licensure, provides for reports.
Rep. Schlegel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, so SB 237 in its original form right now it's a zero THC when it comes to hemp products. That's currently my personal position on this. Obviously, you knew I fought for this amendment, but clearly the body was going in a different direction. So we talked to the members to see where you all wanted to go, and it was to do real meaningful regulation. And so Senator Presley has worked with all the stakeholders. He's worked with the Speaker, the Senate President, who obviously is a co-author on this bill. And I'm going to go through all of the things we've agreed on and the amendments and where some of the sticking points are. But you may be asking why someone like me, who is a zero THC, would even carry a bill like this. While I'm passionate about this, I'm equally passionate that this wide open, highly unregulated market that we currently are in is totally unacceptable, and we have to do something. The hemp industry would love us for not to do anything. That's traditionally what has occurred in this body. And so we have worked really hard to come up what we think is a very reasonable regulations that protects the public and especially children. Because what's happening now with the unregulated market is what I showed you all in the article. It just happened in Mike Johnson's area, where middle school students had nerd rope candy, because they can market it like that, and it was infused with THC, and multiple students went to the ER. I get articles, that's not a one-off. I get articles like this every day. People send me these things because they know I'm passionate about it. I get information of high school students, like Rep. Fontenot talked about, where they're failing drug tests because they got THC gummies in a gas station. They didn't realize what they're taking, and now they're failing drug tests and getting expelled for school. So all these regulations are to make sure we have public safety and protect children. And so I'd like to offer up the amendments, because that is actually now what the bill will be.
Representative Schlegel offers up amendment set number 5344.
Rep. Schlegel.
Okay, so I want to be as transparent as possible. I was in some of the meetings, so I did get to sit down through, and I also worked with Senator Presley. So currently where we stand right now in the law, it obviously allows for over-the-counter sale of intoxicating THC products. 8 milligrams THC per serving, no limit on the number of servings in a package. I've seen packages that have 400 milligrams of THC. I've seen actually a new product that they were going to have 5,000 milligrams of THC. So there's no limit on the amount of THC in a package, no restriction on where the THC products may be sold. It could be a package to obviously appeal to children, which we're seeing. No requirement to test these products in the state of Louisiana. And it can allow for lab-created or synthetic manufactured THC. So where are we now? So these are the agreements, my understanding, all sides have agreed upon. And then I'll go through what are sort of right now the sticking points. So what the agreements were made, so now we're dropping it to 5 milligrams per serving. You cannot have any more than 8 per package. For beverages, it's 5 milligrams with 4 drinks. It's got to be 12 ounces. It's got to be naturally occurring cannabinoids. They have to test the batch. They have to test the product. Child-resistant packaging, no floral, no inhalation, products approved by LDH, because right now only the label is approved. No marketing to kids, can't be candy-like in the packaging. The warning label on testing that you could fail a drug test if you take this product. The ATC has to approve signage at retail locations. They require, if you're going to sell to out of state, you got to register with the Secretary of State. No alcohol drinks can contain hemp. They do allow for these products to be sold to other states as long as you're meeting the regulations of those states. And we can discuss, I think we're very much in line with some of the states that are regulating this. There's a federal preemption, because right now the federal government is also looking at this. They put an amendment onto the Farm Bill to close the loophole, because this is happening all over to all states. So if the federal government does solve the problem, there's no preemption. And then there's a 60-day product approval denial. It gives LDH 60 days to approve or deny a product. So what were why the negotiation sort of broke down? There were 3 issues. We wanted it with individually wrapping in the thing, so you knew what a serving was. So we made that concession and we removed that from the bill. Some people didn't like, a lot of people compared this to alcohol, which I do not compare this to alcohol. In terms of the developing brain, studies have shown there's an increase in psychotic episodes with teens who use THC. And what we also know about addiction, because obviously I'm an addiction counselor, when people first use a substance, if you do it under the age of 15, you have a 30% chance of being addicted. When you try something between 15 and 17, you have a 20% chance. And then it goes up to around 20 is where you have about a 7%. And then after 21, it drops to 4. So that's why, we have regulations that things should be 21 and up. But when we have such a wide open, kids are gonna get access. We all know where you get it is in convenience stores. And so the other one was sales locations. So currently right now, recreational THC is sold in over 3,000 locations. That is why you're seeing all these incidences of kids getting access to it. So we have solved that by lowering who can actually sell this. Because think about it, y'all, medical marijuana, which is THC, we as a body deliberately only allow 30 locations for that to be sold, pharmacy with a recommendation. So we need to bring this down of who can actually sell this. So we have it currently where it could be in a tobacco shop, it could be in a liquor store where I think you have to be 18 to go, and then the big grocery stores. So in that sticking point, that's where we land in here. And then the 3-tier system was also a sticking point. Again, a lot of people like to compare it to alcohol, and they are in a 3-tier system, but we took that part out. It's obviously going to be punted at a later time, and so that is what the amendments do. And I will take questions.
Okay, members, I just want to pause for one quick second for my own personal privilege. A lot of people are asking me about lunch. I'm going to first apologize to Rep. Boyd because she told me it had to be at noon. I'm going to miss that mark by a little bit, I'm sure. But as soon as we're done with this bill, we're going to break for lunch. Okay, Representative Miller for a question on the amendment.
Chairwoman Slagle, I would start by thanking you, also thanking Senator Presley. We've also worked, all of us have worked long and hard to try to get this bill in its right posture. Looking at the amendment, I will say I think 3 things the body, and I can't speak for everybody, but I continue to hear. The first thing they wanted to do was protect children. We all agreed on that. They wanted to add regulations. We all agreed to that. I think 80% of this amendment is agreed upon from the hemp and both sides. But there are some things in this amendment that I'm going to go over that I think potentially kills the industry. I will start.
Give me a question, or did you want to come to the well too?
I'm going to come to the well, but I'm going to go over the amendments because he just dropped them like 10 minutes ago, so we're trying to digest them.
Miller, you know that obviously, I got these amendments this morning too. They have been working on with negotiations. It wasn't like a surprise. So I just don't want anyone to think we're trying to.
Well, I said fairly. Everybody has been working real hard. Okay. So on page 1, let's start with line 32, the definition of a consumable hemp product. So right now, CBD and hemp falls under the same license. There's lotion that's made without any non-intoxicating substance. So under this definition, CBD lotion, what category would they now fall under?
So my understanding, and I have it, that CBD will not fall under because those are non-intoxicating, right? So there's no intense limitation on that. So I know people talked about lotion, so it wouldn't fall under these regulations.
But this this category, they fall under a consumable hemp product, and if we redefining it, the question is now, what category would CBD hemp fall under?
Well, obviously, we're regulating THC, so we're not regulating any of the just like I'm not speaking about the industrial side, right? You could do textiles and all that stuff. We're not actually speaking to that.
Okay, but just letting you know that that's an issue and a concern with the industry. Page 2, line 35. No person shall sell or offer for sale at retail any consumable hemp product over the counter in a retail establishment. Doesn't that pretty much ban it from being sold everywhere?
So that's not correct. So if you know about when you create laws, you set up the prohibitions first, and that's listing, and then you do the exceptions. So if you go down further into the bill, we start talking about who can sell it. Class B, which is the big grocery stores, Class C, and then the tobacco stores. So it's not but no one else can. So that's what that prohibition is about.
So right here it states that no one can sell it at a retail store. Then we go into the bill. Let's find the part you're talking about. Page 6, the first paragraph. It states that a building must be 17,500 square feet. I mean, what buildings are we talking about? I mean, so if a mini Walmart would decide to put this behind the counter where it's alcohol, I mean, I'm assuming it is 17,000 square feet.
Yeah, so I mean, this would be Class B, which is convenience stores. And the reason why we have the square footage, it's going to include like the grocery stores like Rouse's, but what it's not going to include is like the little marts right outside of LSU, or the ones that don't have convenience stores that don't have gas stations. So that's what that one is about. So when you go back to what you were talking about, prohibitions, it's not saying nothing can be sold. It's these three can be the ones to sell it.
Yes, but where does the number 17,500 square feet, where did that come from? The hemp industry agreed with the Senate President's amendment to say it can no longer be sold at any convenience store with gasoline. That was an agreement that's on the table. It's going to be on a bill that's going to be ran across the hall in, I guess, a few minutes. 17,500 square feet. I mean, that may eliminate any potential for any local grocery store, and I'm not saying they're in a grocery store now.
So my understanding is when we both saw the First Amendment set, Class B wasn't even in it. This is making a concession to have bigger grocery stores, because convenience stores, they didn't want it at gas stations and convenience stores because that's where kids get it, okay? I mean, I have a lot of convenience stores that don't sell gasoline. So that was actually a concession to allow grocery stores, because obviously some of the beverages are sold in those things.
But it was this Arthur's concession. It wasn't everyone, the majority of the room that the agreement was on with the Senate President, convenience stores with gas. He's went beyond to say now 17,500. The industry is now concerned. They don't even know, looking at this amendment, where they can sell. We're almost pushing it only to vape shops and
liquor stores and grocery stores.
And grocery stores that are 17,500 square feet.
So
and
not
excuse my
convenience
ignorance, I don't even know how many square feet is this building. And that's why it's confusing.
Sort of the average, and look, I don't know exactly how this specific number, but I know it wasn't just caught out of the blue. I think they looked at some of what the convenience stores are.
Okay. A few more questions. I'm going through this. I guess I will say the hemp.
Go back to, again, we're talking about THC, y'all. We're not just talking about some benign product. Like medical marijuana, we made sure it was only sold in 30 pharmacies that require prescription. Now you're telling me it should be in convenience stores.
No, I'm telling you that we agreed. The agreement with the industry was to take it out of convenience stores with gasoline. And now this amendment, where we don't know where it came from, that states 17,500 square feet. So we don't know where the limit is. The industry don't even know where they can sell. They agreed to take it out of the convenience stores.
I mean, I would love to put an amendment where it could just be sold in pharmacies.
I understand. So let's say page 5, line 42 to 45, where it says the wholesale permits and The only people who can have it is a valid wholesale permit issued pursuant to ORS 26. Is that now making it to where the wholesalers are only going to be our current alcohol distributors?
So no, my understanding is the wholesalers, because again, if we're talking about putting guardrails on, because currently, right now, there's not many when it comes to that area. And so if you want to compare it to the alcohol industry or the tobacco industry, both products we try to regulate to make sure it doesn't get in the hands of kids, that it has to go through a wholesaler that's a wine and spirit wholesaler or tobacco wholesaler.
So basically, they have to now go into that system to where they're going to have to ship all of their products to the alcohol and tobacco wholesalers, the people who currently don't want this industry and is fighting to kill this industry.
Look, I can't speak to who's fighting to kill this industry or whatnot, but what we did is we looked at regulations of products that we try to prevent kids from doing. That's tobacco, alcohol. And look, this is the frustrating part about it all, is they always want the benefits of an industry, but not the regulations. Like I hear medical marijuana doesn't have a wholesaler, but medical marijuana's got to be grown here. It's got to be sold in pharmacies here. But y'all don't want that. I would love to put an amendment on that the only products that are sold here are actually grown here and actually help our Louisiana farmers, but y'all don't want that. So yes, I think that's a very reasonable when it comes to how we look at products that harm children.
Okay. All right, so just to be clear, we wanted to protect children, we wanted to increase regulations. We agreed to a lot of these things, but there are some things in here. Number one, it forces them to go to the wholesalers with the alcohol, tobacco, and winery. It adds 17,500 space. That's like a huge warehouse. That's where they have to sell it. And it also takes the CBD definition out of it. So, all right, thank you. Thank you.
Representative Horton for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Slagle, Chairwoman Slagle, for bringing this. And the amendments are tolerable, and I appreciate your hard work. Is there any limit to the amount that someone can purchase at one time?
So we wanted that. That was actually one of the things we were going to have a monitoring system just like they have Sudafed.
Correct.
But the industry did not want that. So if someone wants to bring that potentially next year, I would think that's a very reasonable concession. Again, y'all, we have made a lot of concessions. And so it's not like we're trying to be unreasonable. I listened to the body. I didn't tell y'all I'm going to park a bill just because I didn't like an amendment on it. I'm bringing this because I do believe that we have to put guardrails on something that's so wide open and our children are getting hurt.
Totally agree. Thank you so much.
Rep. Freeman for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Schlegel, Chairwoman Schlegel, my question was to do with, and I don't think, I was trying to pay attention to Chairman Miller, but I don't think he asked this question. And it's on page 6, line 27. I think this is the section it's in. I might not have, but it's to deal with online sales. So the way I'm reading this amendment says that you have to be a Louisiana permitted wholesaler to do online.
That's correct.
So to do online, you'd have to have the certain square footage, and you would have to be able to be a Louisiana registered business and approved.
So to be a remote retailer, yes, you would have to be registered with the Secretary of State. So again, y'all, we're talking about THC. I don't want that to be lost, and when we're trying to put regulations on to obviously protect people. But yes, you would have to go through a wholesaler because again, that's the checks and balance that we're actually, they're meeting the regulations that we are set before in law. Again, with just like anything else, tobacco, alcohol.
Okay, so but are you aware that there's a large online community of people buying these products currently, right now?
Aware, and I will be bringing a bill next session to actually address that specific point.
Are you aware of what I would call the dark web that we have almost no jurisdiction over because it functions in a way where 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds are ordering these products through the web?
I agree, but I think they're buying it. And look, when you come when you talk about a child and when we actually put our stamp of approval on a product versus the dark web or getting it from a drug dealer, kids that go to gas stations and see THC gummies, they think, okay, this is okay to use. There's a difference. You are going to prevent kids that when you don't put a stamp of approval on something and sell it in a gas station. So that could be with anything. You can find anything on the dark web. You can sell fentanyl. That doesn't mean we're going to put a stamp of approval and sell it in a gas station.
Well, I hear you, and I agree that it shouldn't be at gas stations, and I understand that that might be added to Chairman Miller's bill. I don't know that, but I've heard that. But I just wanted to ask you about your awareness on where children are getting this through other means, and
I've heard
I don't
from
know
many-
how. I'm not.
Many that they're getting it through the convenience stores and the gas stations.
Okay, but I don't know how we as a legislative body can regulate the federal mail and people who are going to break that law. There's no,
I mean,
there's
they
no
do
way.
it with the alcohol industry. You can't have alcohol shipped here. So there's ways to do it. And look, this is the first step. And we're going to go then look to those two, you know, because again, we just became aware of what we unwillingly created, right? For the first time, I heard the hemp industry actually tell the truth in criminal justice when they said, yeah, of course these products get high. Do you understand under direct questioning in some of the oversights, no one ever said the truth. So this is when we're all just coming to attention on this. And so yes, I will be making sure one of my bills is going to address online.
Right, but are you aware that it's very hard for us to regulate retail sales online? I mean, already when it comes to Amazon shipments and others, we don't even tax people
Look, there's already
properly.
there's some guardrails there too, right? In terms of a parent and credit cards and all that. Look, so what I'm doing here right now is trying to fix what we have right now in the state of Louisiana.
Okay, well, the online component, I just don't even know. I don't understand how you can regulate the online component no matter
The
what you
alcohol
say.
industry do. You
People
cannot-
ship wine to the state.
I
People
think
ship
wine's the only thing. I don't think you can ship any other type of alcohol. And look, I may be totally, but no, I think that is definitely a thing. So there's a way, and we're going to be looking at all of those things, but we're not going to get in the way of progress to try to meet perfection. I'm not going to be able to fix every single problem, but I'm certainly, and I would love your support in my next session when I do address online.
Well, I do agree with you that it needs to be regulated. Just
1 second. Members, the member is out of time. Is there an objection to granting an additional 5 minutes? We have a lot of people in line for questions. Without objection, you have an additional 5 minutes.
regulation is important. I agree with you on that. I just caution you to consider some of these amendments. It's like we're really considering another bill, and I appreciate the time that you put in working with people on the bill, but I would just caution you to consider, or to my colleagues, that some of these amendments are unenforceable, I believe. That's just, sorry. I'm sorry for the statement, Mr.
Very
Speaker.
enforceable, and we've got the ATC to make sure they're enforceable.
Thank you, Ms. Speaker.
Rep. Thomas for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Slagle,
Yes.
is this an action to reverse or correct something that we were told in this body 2 years ago?
Yes, I actually don't think we would be here if we were told the truth in the first place.
Okay, so do you recall this situation?
I do.
Would you mind repeating it for us?
Well, when we, in 2022, when we had a bill for adult consumable hemp products, Rep. Thomas asked a question if these products got people high, and the answer was undoubtedly no, that it would take trailer truckloads. Because when you are dealing with the hemp plant, that is true, it has very low amounts of THC, but they were able to find a loop around and convert CBD to THC, and so that's why we have the products we do.
Yes, and so maybe 6 months or so afterwards, is it correct that we learned that we had inadvertently legalized marijuana?
That's true. I wouldn't call it marijuana. I would call it recreational
Okay,
THC.
recreational THC.
It is marijuana too.
Okay. You referenced a little bit about addiction and what happens with children's brains. Would you please elaborate on that? Because I want to make sure that the body understands what their children and their grandchildren might be facing.
Sure. So, look, I'm an addiction counselor, so that you can know why I'm passionate about a lot of these things that affect children, because it does affect the developing brain differently than it affects the adult brain. And so what we know, and there's just a recent study that just came out, that there's a higher incidence increase in psychotic disorders for teens that actually use THC. What we know about addiction, if you first use a substance under the age of 15, it's around a 30% likely you're going to be addicted. 15 to 17, it's around 20%. And when you get to like 18 to 20, it gets down to, I think, 7, and then over 20 to 4.
And is there not an increase in suicides related to this issue?
I don't feel comfortable speaking to that, but I know there's now, because look, this is sort of kind of a new thing, right? And so the research is now catching up to actually what transpires with the developing brain and THC.
So is the best thing,
Experiment on our children, so that's why I'm obviously up here.
is the best thing for us to do is to vote for this amendment, is that correct?
Even people who are zeros like me, it's totally unacceptable to keep it the way it is. And look, no offense to Chairman Miller, I do not have much confidence in the hemp industry. Even in the negotiations, they literally said, we would love for nothing to happen. Same thing happened last session when we desperately needed hemp regulations, and the bill was parked because they were afraid of this conversation. And then they even said in the media, like, yeah, that's what we want. We don't want any regulations.
Okay,
So.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rep. Jordan for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rep. Slagle. Look, I'm not sure what the amendment does, so I'm really trying to find out, because I thought I heard you saying, if I didn't hear you say this, forgive me, but I heard you say that you would be able to sell this in the same place that they sell alcohol.
That's correct.
All right,
But you won't
so-
be able to consume it.
Right,
together with
no,
alcohol.
but if you go back to page 6, lines 3 through 6, it says, no retail permit authorized under this provision shall be issued to an applicant that also holds any other retail permit to sell alcoholic beverages. So the way I read that
Wait,
is,
I'm sorry, so page 6, I think mine are a little quite different when I printed it up. So
all
page
right, it's page 6 on the one I'm looking at online. Page 6, it's the first paragraph, and it's talking about the 17.5 square feet. So once you see that, it says 17,000 square feet of dedicated retail space or valid Class C permit issued. And the next sentence says that no retail permit authorized under this
Right,
provision.
if you have another retail permit, like there are other retail permits that can sell alcohol, right? Obviously bars. So you can't have another retail permit. When it comes to,
But it doesn't say that. It says that it shall not be issued to an applicant that also holds any
another
other,
retail permit.
right, other than the hemp permit.
No, so and again, I'm learning all this too, right?
Okay.
So you can have a Class C permit and sell these products. You can have a Class B, obviously with the square footage. You can also have where it could be in tobacco stores, but you can't have another retail permit. There's other retail permits. There's Class A where they sell alcohol. So you can't have another retail permit and also sell this product, is my understanding. Because there's different
So-
retail permits.
So but when you say you can sell it where they sell alcohol, then there's some exceptions to that, I assume.
So currently, you can sell it in a Class C permit, and a Class C permit is allowed to sell alcohol. I think that's actually what a Class C permit is. So that those stores, my understanding, you have to be 18 or older to enter.
Okay, so tell me this, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. So if you're telling me that you can sell it, you can sell the hemp product at a place that has a B or C permit to sell alcohol, tell me what other establishments could sell alcohol that would not be able to sell hemp?
Bars. Bars would be I think one that sells alcohol.
So,
right?
so then, all right,
Understand they're a Class A, and so obviously.
so what
in
are,
this amendment-
so what are B and C permit holders?
So B, is my understanding, is convenience stores, grocery stores.
Okay.
And so we wanted to not have it in convenience stores, because that's obviously where kids are getting it, so, but we were.
So hold
going-
on, let's back up.
Yeah.
You're talking a little fast for me. So B are convenience stores
And grocery stores.
and grocery stores. So they would be able to sell this in a convenience store or grocery store?
If they met that certain square footage. And
If
again,
if they met the 17,500 square feet.
that's correct.
All right, so I don't know very many convenience stores that have 17.
We're trying to not get it in convenience stores. That's the goal of the amendment. So what we're trying to do is scale back the amount of retailers, because right now there's 3,000 retailers.
So let me ask you this, then that brings up another question.
Rep. Jordan, I have one minute. Members, the member is
you.
out of time. We still have people, quite a few people in line to ask questions. Is there any objections to granting an additional 5 minutes? Hearing no objections, Rep. Jordan?
Thank you. All right, so then are we creating different classes of convenience stores now that might create a constitutional issue?
My understanding is that, I mean, because we had the lawyers obviously look at it, that this would be okay.
Well, if
Because
I'm
we're
a-
obviously putting, and again, going back to, and I hate to like keep going back to it, but we are talking about THC. I'm not talking about, I don't know, candy, right? And so we.
No, I understand what we're talking
Yeah.
about, but if we're going to do the regulations, I think we need to make sure that it's fair. I mean, I understand your purpose. I know you would prefer not to have it at all.
My preference would be to have it in the 30 pharmacies where medical marijuana, I think.
I understand, but the fact is, we are regulating it. We are putting some regulations in place. And so my question is, then what differentiates if I'm a convenience store at 16,000 square feet, or at even 17,400 square feet, and I don't have an extra 100 square feet, but my competition down the street is 17.5, and so he can sell it and I can't, just because of the size of our store? We're both convenience stores?
Currently, that is the language, right? Again, our goal is to try to limit the amount. That was a concession that we made because it was just Class C. We only had Class C in the original amendment. That was a concession we could make to where, grocery stores could sell this.
All right, so grocery stores, convenience stores over a certain square footage can sell it. Bars cannot sell it.
Correct.
And if you sell alcohol and you're above that, you can, but if you sell alcohol and you're below the square footage, you can't sell it.
Right, well, if you're a liquor store, there's no square footage limitation. It's only on the Class B.
So,
Liquor
and if
stores-
I'm a convenience store that does not sell alcohol, I still can't sell it, regardless of size.
Right, because it's not about whether you sell alcohol or not. That's not necessarily, again, we're trying to limit the retailers, because right now, because it's so wide open, that's why kids can get it, right? That's why kids are vaping and having all that, because it's everywhere. And so we're trying to, again, scale it back to more appropriate
I'm
retailers.
just, and I'm not trying to be facetious with this, but would it not be easier for a kid to circumvent the law going to a larger grocery store than a smaller one? I know my convenience stores, usually in the neighborhoods, the kids, they check for ID, they're very small. You get into these big box
They're checking
stores.
IDs. They have a lot to lose. I could promise you Rouse's is going to check your ID if you're buying THC.
Yeah, but we're talking about a convenience store.
Convenience stores is where the kids are getting it. We all
Well-
know, we were all teenagers before. Where you get it is at the more local
Well,
convenience store.
But I guess my question is, the bigger, I'm confused just by the size of the big convenience store versus a small one, but I understand where you are. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Jordan.
Members, if you don't mind, please hold some of the conversations down. Members? Rep. Stagney for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairwoman Slagle, I heard you say that this industry is wide open, and you and I have both been here for quite a while. And so we had a bill in 2019, we had a bill in 2020, we had a bill in 2021, we had a bill in 2022, and we had 2 oversight hearings and a bill starting to go through the process in 2023. all trying to regulate the industry further. Would you agree with that?
So Rep. Stagney, I wasn't here in 19 or 20 or 21. I think my first vote was on the 2022 bill, where it made it very explicit that we were talking about adult consumable hemp. So, I mean, I can speak to that. My understanding is from talking to members that were here is that this was to help Louisiana farmers, and it was all about industrial hemp. That's why if you look at the titles of all the bills, you're talking about industrial hemp. Nobody was talking about, there's no title that says THC products. There's none of that.
You knew because you had questions in committee.
After we found out, so I didn't know when we actually voted on that, and Rep. Thomas asked very explicitly, do these products get you high? Let me finish answering, because I was in those oversight committees, and you know I asked those questions to the hemp industry, and they danced
As
around
did
it
I.
like the best dance I ever saw. And so I had to find out, and that, I mean, on my amendment, I told you all the people I went and researched and talked to actually get my own answers to.
Now, there's some dancing going on, but I don't think it was by the industry, and it's a little offensive that we've gone through committee hearing after committee hearing, oversight hearing after oversight hearing. You even praised the previous speaker, thanking him for working with every friggin' stakeholder involved. That was your quote.
Okay,
and I think he has done that. Let me finish my question. So,
Stagney, I need questions on the amendment.
So I'm going to disagree with that only because Senator Presley and I both had amendments to that regulation bill, and he had told us in the committee, he didn't add it to the committee because Thomas was going to add that amendment on, and he said, I'll work with you from here to the floor. And look, that never happened because the bill was parked. We never got to. So I would not say that we were like in that moment, maybe yes, when I thought, look, I always have hope that people are going to do the right thing. And when they don't, then obviously I have to do things, to try to course correct.
but there were previous bills, and you would agree that we have regulated this industry. In fact, if there's a comparison of Louisiana to all of the other states that have hemp, or let's talk about the surrounding states, we've put in a great deal of regulation, and I'm one of those who believes if there's an issue, we go further and regulate it. But I sat in.
I agree with you. I think this is a very highly unregulated industry, and that's why we're hearing incidences of middle school students having nerd rope candy infused with THC.
The stuff that,
Allowing packaging that attracts minor is regulation, or not having child-resistant packaging is regulation. Or how about the regulation I wanted to have on this bill where you can't sell at 2,000 from a school that the hemp industry did not want to have?
I really don't know
Not regulations.
how school-age kids are getting in and buying it when you have to be 18 years old. On the poison control website right now, well, that's what I think we're trying to do. I think it's 18 now.
No, I think the law is 21, but
Okay.
I could be mistaken. But yes, it's
Members,
THC.
the member is out of time. Is there any objections to granting an additional 5 minutes? Hearing no objections, you have an additional 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the poison control website right now, there's a big blurb about a child getting into their grandfather's therapeutic marijuana. And so you have stood up there and talked about.
I asked.
Let me
and
finish
look,
the
they
question.
Because you saying about therapeutic marijuana, I've asked the medical marijuana if they've ever had a complaint, if anything revolving, and they said no. So I can only speak to that. I can speak to the fact that we're talking about rope nerd candy, and talking about poison control. I sent it to y'all. They only had 4 when it came to THC infused products in 2019. Now there's close to 200.
You have talked about intoxicating THC, but you know there's a difference between hemp, which has 0.3% THC, and marijuana, don't you?
So, Rep. Stagney, I think you get this totally wrong. So, hemp, the actually plant, is only supposed to have 0.03% THC. But what's happening is they're converting all the CBD that they have a lot in the hemp plant and converting it, and that's how we're getting so much THC. So, yeah, no, and I think when we're talking about THC, Delta-9, that's the same intoxicating product that's in marijuana.
I agree with you.
But
And
I
the
think that's
last
where
bill
people got
that was
confused.
coming up before this body banned the inhalation and anything synthetic. If you go back to any of the committee hearings and anything on the floor, it was said, nothing man-made, nothing synthetic. I sat
So
in
I
on
would
the
agree
meeting with
that
you.
One thing that they did right is no inhalation. I will definitely give you that.
I sat in on the meeting a few days ago with you when the inception of some of these amendments came about. I have not done that again because it was obvious to me that this is just another way to do the ban that the original bill wanted to do.
I
Did you know?
wholeheartedly disagree. We have other states doing this exact same thing. Florida is very similar to
Thank you.
Members, I want to remind you, if you're going to make a statement, I would ask that you press your floor button. President Marcel, for a question, Rep. Marcel, for a question on the amendment.
Thank you. I'm trying to follow along with your amendment, and it appears to increase the size of the place where it can be sold to, that's
So what-
one of the things that it does.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to limit the amount of retailers. That is the reason.
You're trying
for
to
the
limit what? I'm sorry.
amount of retailers. Right now, there's over 3,000 retailers selling recreational THC. We're trying to scale that back, and that's what that amendment is.
So is your thought process, if you scale that back, that the minors that you keep referencing won't go to the places that are selling it?
That's one part of it. I also believe, look, again, I'll go back to, I believe this should be sold in medical marijuana stores because we're talking about THC. So that's where I am. We're making a concession to allow, because we heard, well, we don't want to destroy an industry, and that's what these amendments are.
Okay, so when you say you're making a concession, did the industry agree to the 17,500 feet?
My understanding, that's what I said, that's probably a sticking point, because they want it
It's
to
a
be.
sticking point? That means they did not agree, ma'am? Is that, my question is, did they agree?
My understanding is they want to be, currently, they want to be in all the stores. I mean, that's where they want to be.
But
They
let
don't
me-
want to be in any regulation.
Let me ask you a question. But were there some meetings where they made some concessions? Did they make some concessions on this bill?
I was not in all the meetings. I
Yes.
just went through everything that they agreed to together and where the sticking points were.
And what you,
I was also told that they'd be okay if nothing happened.
okay, so what you believe should happen is everything that you want to happen. Is that it?
I talked to members of
Because
the
you already
body.
said you wanted it just in pharmacists, correct?
That's correct. I would love for that
That's your
amendment.
thought process, right? And are you aware of the many rural areas that we have that don't have a lot of pharmacists? Are you aware of that? There are people,
Not limiting just to, it's not in pharmacies, so I know that that's kind of a
got
moot
it, but
point.
you keep making that statement, so I just want to address it.
So Rep. Marcel, I'm at a 0 THC. I mean, that's where I personally am.
Right.
I talked to the members of this body to try to come up with a reasonable regulation of a very highly unregulated.
And
Representative Marcel, members, the member is out of time. Is there any objections to granting an additional 5 minutes? There's multiple objections. All those in favor of granting an additional 5 minutes? Opposed, vote nay. Madam Clerk, please open machines. Henry, yea. Noel? Yea. Guyman, nay. Hilfrey, yea. Furman, nay. Clerk will close the machine. We have 54 yeas, 31 nays, and the motion fails. Representative Travis Johnson for the floor on the amendment. It fails. It's a 2/3 vote. Told you to press your button sooner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise in opposition of this amendment, and this is why. As my good friend, Mr. Slager, just said, it was dropped 10 minutes ago. This is how we got in this predicament. I remember 2-3 years ago, sitting in a meeting with Speaker Clay Schexnayder, working to the very last minute. Then we got to the end of the year. We passed the hemp bill a day before the session ended. He said, some folks said he made agreements that he did not keep. When you pass a bill to the very last minute, you don't have the time to go through vague amendments and vague dialogue. You ask yourself questions, and next thing you know, you pass a bill, an amendment, It goes into law, and the next thing you know, you're reading the newspapers, all of the unintended consequences. We have not, over 75% of these agreements were taken up, but some of these agreements on this amendment was not agreed upon by the industry. Let's remember, for those of you who want regulations, there are two bills. There's a Miller bill that's going to be carried today by Senator Kusan. It's going to add amendments to protect our children, add more regulations, and most importantly, it's done with good faith. And when I say good faith, that's all the stakeholders at the table. As legislators, that is what we want. Bills that are done in good faith from our heart and soul, with all stakeholders there, with fairness, integrity. This amendment and bill was not done in good faith, and only 75% of the agreements is in this amendment. I ask you guys to please oppose this for the business of Louisiana. Thank you.
Will you take questions on the floor? Rep. Johnson, are you waving? Rep. Mike Johnson.
Brother Johnson, you're talking about agreements that were made before. You're talking about sessions that were done before. Would you agree that today is not yesterday?
I agree that today was not
Would
yesterday.
you agree that our leadership today is not the leadership that we had then?
And we don't make those same mistakes. I agree.
Would you agree that this legislature is not the same legislature that was here before?
And we should learn from our mistakes. I do agree.
I agree too. You think that we're in a better place and we've been led to a better place with more credibility than maybe we had in the past?
Oh, holistically, yes, sir.
Holistically. Is
Sir.
that a hemp word? What is that?
What that means with this particular amendment, with this amendment here, I think that there needs to be more work done, more eyes on this amendment. We need to vet this amendment, make sure it's intended, and make sure we fully understand. There are many members out here right now who does not understand these amendments. We're trying to digest them, and I think that by giving us more, I think with this last minute drop and trying to get this bill out of here, we have not been able to look, so I cannot speak with full confidence right now on this amendment.
Representative Travis Johnson, let me ask you a more simple question. Are my grandchildren, are they less apt to be able to get a hold of this? Y'all got all kind of names for it. I call it dope. Are they going to be less apt to get it if this amendment passes than what we've got right now?
I think that if this amendment passed, we don't know, is what am I saying, on Speaker Pro Temp. What I'm also saying, I have a son who is in high school. I want to protect my son. Again, I'm an industrial hemp guy. I also created the chair, it was the chair for the industrial hemp program under Commissioner Mike Scrane, so we can have all of this dialogue. As far as this bill, I cannot speak with confidence, sir, that it will protect them because I don't really know what it does, and I don't think most of the members know what it does.
I know you to be a very good father.
I am.
Did you know that a whole classroom of children, one kid got it, whole classroom of children went to the hospital in Rapides Parish?
Yeah.
Because they went to one of these businesses and got their hands on something that made some of them sick.
Mr. Speaker Pro Temp, I wish my good friend McCormick...
Do you know about that?
I'm aware of the articles. There are some articles that say good things. There are some articles that say bad things. And I wish my good friend McCormick was here today. I think he spoke eloquently last time this debate was here. He said some things are done in good faith. The legislature can add ample rules. We can make ATC, Department of Health, we can do everything within our power as we do with guns and everything else. There are always bad actors. It is our job to make sure that we pass fair laws for businesses and public safety. I think Representative Miller bill does that. I think that we can find instances across the board for alcohol, where kids get a hold to alcohol with all the rules we have for it. They do the same thing with liquor, even more instances. I saw an article yesterday, a 17-year-old died. Fatality, was just about to graduate. So these instances is not only germane or only dealing with hemp. Our young people get access to these things and many times, and so I don't think that's one good example.
You're talking about being fair and equal with the industry and the businesses and everybody else. Do you think the health of my grandchild or my grandchildren or your child or their children or grandchildren are equal with the interest of business? Or am I out of line that my grandchildren's health, my grandchildren's is much more paramount importance than being fair as you use to a business?
I made 2 points. I said business and public health. That means, I said public health, I said it. That means we got to care about the well-being of our people. And as legislators, we have to be multifaceted to look at all the different nuances of these laws. Of course, I can say, hey, children. I love children. I think all of us love children. But let's not use children in this argument, because everyone in here loves children. This is about the germane and wellness of this amendment. This amendment we don't know what it says, and that's the clear point I'm making today. This amendment, as any legislator up here, what does it all do? We don't know. My last point is that because
it doesn't say in the amendment what it does?
Members, I'm going to ask. I know we're passionate about this. We have a lot of people to ask questions.
Okay, well, this is important.
Yes. Well, we're trying to digest it now, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
I appreciate you, Rep. Travis Johnson. Thank you.
All right.
Rep. Stagney for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Johnson, there are regulations in the law right now,
Correct.
right? LDH is supposed to regulate, and ATC is supposed to enforce.
That's correct.
There are fines in the law. Did you know that RS 3.1484F, that's how they collect the taxes?
That's correct.
So there's some regulation. RS 3:1483E and F, that's how everything's tested, and that's an exhaustive statute. So it's not just labeling, it is testing as well. I just want the new members to know that there are some regulations in place, and you're probably as knowledgeable as anybody else on this issue, and we still want to regulate it further. I agree with you that we really should keep this a ban bill, not let any amendments on, and regulate through Miller's bill if that's a possibility.
I agree.
Thank you.
I waive, Mr. Speaker.
All right, he waives questions. There was one more question. Representative Miller for the floor.
Members, I come to the floor today very humbled about this bill, realizing that I'm not here representing or working for any billionaires. I'm here representing small businesses and myself. This amendment kills the industry, period. I don't have a store within my district that's 17,500 square feet. I just got a text that my mini Walmart is 3,200 square feet. I repeat, I have no store within my district that's 17,500 square feet. Now tell me, where's the compromise? I heard from members that wanted to protect kids and regulate. In the amendments that we offered, we added child protection wraps. We removed it out of convenience stores with gasoline, which was 70% of this industry business. And they said, we agree, we will do it. And we will try to figure out from here how we can stay alive, but we will do that. And now, in this amendment, we're gonna tell them, not only can you not sell at 80% of the places you were selling, but you now have to bring it to the alcohol wholesaler who wants the industry dead. We let microbrewers produce and sell. Medical marijuana grow, produce, and now they own pharmacies. But this industry, you can't do it. You could grow, but go ahead and send it to the alcohol people to let them sell. That's what this amendment does. I've been working tirelessly with everyone to reach an agreement. And I think we have one. I think we're close. And I will say, Senator Presley met in all those meetings too. And everyone tried to get to the middle. And I think today on the Senate floor, you will see a bill, and we were trying to get the amendment on here. This bill came up too early. You will see an amendment that's going to regulate, that's going to decrease the milligrams from 8 to 5, that's going to decrease the packaging. It's not going to allow unlimited packaging. The drinks that everyone's talking about with 40 milligrams, that's gone. We all agree, should be limited at 8. All of those things that we heard is going to come in an amendment. We thought we were there with this. But then this extra stuff that's coming up, I have no idea where it come from, but it kills the industry. You might as well vote for it at 0 if we vote for it right here. No restaurants, no bars. We continue to talk about the farmers. Let's talk about the farmers. This seed is very complicated. Over the 3 years that they've been doing this, they're now getting to where they're finding the proper seed to where we know what's going to work in Louisiana. So guess what? Farmers now realizing it's not as big of a risk for them to stop growing sugarcane and now start growing hemp. This industry is a small business industry that's growing by the day. I'm gonna leave you with one thing before I ask you to table the bill until later. For people that think we might be trying to stall to not pass anything, I would never do that. I'm confident that we will have an amendment that will work, that I think works for both industries. And if we don't have one by 5:30, I'll ask the speaker to bring this bill back up. And we'll figure out how to get where I think everybody want to be. But I'm going to leave you with this one thing. We can ban this everywhere in Louisiana, but they can still buy it online. So everybody out of state is going to make money, and our small businesses are going to just be forced to sell all of their products out of state. We believe in regulating, less regulated. We decreased the milligrams. We added child protection packaging. We did it. We did what I think is all. The industry still don't know if they can survive with what they conceded to. But this here is a kill amendment, and it's a kill bill. Members, I ask you to please support this small business industry. We are going to protect our kids and keep it out of their reach. But this is not the way to do it. This kills the industry. Please follow me, members, and let's table this until we see what the Senate does at 5:30. Thank you.
Rep. Boyd, I just want to apologize. I'm about 47 minutes off of my estimate. Rep. Mandy Landry for the floor on the amendment.
Somebody's phone. Travis. I just want to say, first of all, there's a lot of you in this room who smoke weed and ingest weed and THC and every single product. And so if you don't vote against this, I think you're being a huge hypocrite. Like Dustin Rep. Miller said, the only people who win out of this are the alcohol industry, some of whom have written themselves into our law. And if you don't know that, I'll be happy to tell you about it. Those are the only ones who are win. The small businesses, so many of them I know personally. They're texting me, they're calling me. It's a killer for them. And that is our fault. In 2022, not one person in this building voted against that bill. And if you say you didn't know what's in it, that is your problem. You should have asked more about it. You should have called a scientist. You should have called a farmer. That is not these people's problem that we messed up. And we're going to close their businesses and give it over to millionaires, maybe even billionaires, because that's what we're doing in this. Also, by the way, I found out that we passed a regulation of hemp bill. I think Rep. Johnson probably knows more about it in 2021. And again, not a single person voted against it in either chamber. Rep. Newell had a bill to regulate marijuana only if it ever becomes legal. Guess what? A bunch of people who are voting for this didn't vote for that one. Also, by the way, did you know that organized crime in America comes from prohibition? And that's kind of what we're doing. I just thought that was a fun fact. We're talking a lot about health and medical issues and deaths. Y'all, people have been smoking various versions or ingesting various versions of this for about 100 years, and we don't know about any massive deaths of stoners or people who I just wanted to say this on the floor. People who wake and bake, I knew a bunch of them when I was young, and they're all still alive and wonderful and leading their lives. And according to the DEA, they don't actually know of a single death attributed to any of these products. So I don't know where this sudden concern for something that is relatively safe is coming from. And I also personally know people who may have had a little bit of a drinking problem or other issues that now have moved over to these products, and that has been almost a lifesaver for them. We have 500,000 people in the country so tobacco, is the way it's termed, is the leading cause of preventable death in the country, and I wish we could highly regulate that, but that's a big lobbying industry as well. Alcohol, responsible for, you want to talk about medical problems, fetal alcohol syndrome, driving while drunk, alcoholism, losing your life, losing your home. All of those should be strictly regulated, but we don't know about any of those problems with these products. We're just kind of making it up. I speak in points generally as I write things down on this. Oh, I do think there should be huge warnings on these products that you might fail a drug test. I did not hear that that is in this amendment. It might be, but as everyone before me said, it was just dumped on us at the last minute, and nobody likes that, but if we're gonna kill an industry, we should at least know what we're voting for. I reiterate everything my colleagues said in front of me, that this was our problem that we did this. I think we should have some regulation. I don't think anyone disagrees with that, but this is going to kill the industry and give any money left to it to people who already own an entire other industry, and to give them more, I think that's unconscionable. These are people who are innovating, who are starting businesses from scratch. They're younger, and if they are going to lose their business and their income because we screwed up, that's not fair, especially because if it's something that a lot of y'all use. So thank you.
Rep. Travis Johnson for a question.
I know. Hey, Manny, were you in the negotiations with this hemp bill with the stakeholders?
No, I was not. I know a lot of people who own the businesses, so I have been aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, members, this is a very serious bill, and I just want to make sure folks knew who was all in those meetings when folks speak on behalf of the industry. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Boyd, I just want to let you know that if we would be at lunch right now, it's raining outside, so we probably couldn't go anywhere anyway. Rep. Amade for the floor on the amendment.
I call the question.
There are no further questions. Okay, Representative Schlegel. Representative Schlegel has offered up an amendment. Is there any objections? Are there any? Time out. If you have a question on the amendment, that time has passed. Right now, if you had a floor, that time has passed. So all we have left is an opportunity to object to the amendment. If someone objects, they're going to speak. Okay, then you have a right to close. Hold on, Rep. Schlegel.
So members,
Rep.
let
Schlegel.
me, yeah.
The person who objected needs to come down and speak on their objection, then you will close. Do you want to come down and speak on your objection? Okay, we'll come down and speak on your objection. This is what happens when we get hungry.
Members, I think it's pretty clear why I object. I'm not going to repeat myself. I just ask you to bear with me a little longer. The Senate will pass a version of this bill with a lot of this in it. And if they do not, we have time up till 6 o'clock today to bring this bill back up. But I would ask you to object. And then after we object to this, I'm going to make a motion to table the bill temporarily.
Mr. Schlegel, you have a right to close on your amendment.
So I'd like to just clarify a few things. So when it comes to the third tier, we're actually punting that. That was included in an amendment, but that is no longer. So when we're talking about the alcohol industry and whatnot, that is punted. Chairman Miller came up when he said that his bill will be heard at 5:30 on the Senate side. We all know at 6 o'clock it goes to a 2/3 vote. This bill at 0 passed the Senate 27-6. 27-6, this bill passed out with the Senate President co-authored. So then we're going to just assume that the Senate is just going to pass a regulation bill that's actually been put forth by the hemp industry that, look, I'm a counselor. Past behavior is a predictor of future behavior. We would be fools to let it into the hands of an industry that has done whatever it could not to have regulation. So I ask you to please support this amendment.
Rep. Schlegel, will you take any questions on your closing? No. She waives questions. Okay, members, Representative Schlegel has offered up a set of amendments which Representative Miller has objected to. All those in favor of the amendments vote yea. All those opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, please open machines. Members, vote your machines. Members, vote your machines. Bamberg, yes. Guyman, yes. Clerk will close the machine. We have 39 yeas, 60 nays, and the amendment fails. Rep. Schlegel? Next amendment.
Representative Villio offers amendment set 5363.
Rep. Villio?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I've listened to the debate. I have been a part of the meetings, not all of the meetings, but the negotiations. And I can tell you that it is my appreciation that in an effort to accommodate the opponents of the Presley bill, meaning the hemp industry, the debate, quite frankly, broke down on the square footage. I heard Chairman Miller talk about small businesses here today. I just saw the vote on the amendment. So my amendment set is the same set of amendments with the change that I have reduced that square footage to recognize small businesses to 5,000 feet. All of the debate you hear, quite frankly, it's just over that. I don't care what anybody tells you. If you look at the amendments, everything they want to do or they say they are in agreement with is in here, but the debate broke down on the square footage. So this amendment is the same set, but it reduces it to 5,000 square feet. What I would tell you and what I believe Rep. Schlegel just tried to convey to you is that if we don't pass this bill, members, and new members in particular, by 6 o'clock, whether it's the other side or ultimately if anything comes back here, we will need 2/3 vote. What that means is that we will have the hemp industry we have now with no regulations. That is just the plain truth. So what I urge you to do is consider this amendment, consider putting regulations in place, and then we can continue to work on this. But I believe strongly, and I do believe that we have operated in good faith. We have tried to, but I do believe strongly if we do not pass something out of this House on the Presley bill with amendments, we will have what we have currently in the market, which is dangerous and unacceptable. So I'd ask you to pass this amendment.
Rep. Freiberg for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been researching square footage for an average convenience store.
Sure.
And an average convenience store is somewhere between 3,500 and 4,500 square feet. So 5,000 does not help in any way, it seems to me.
And I'm not sure, what I can tell you, Rep. Freiberg, is that what I do know is, for instance, to just give you a comparison, the average CVS is 9,000 square feet, and the average Walgreens is 14 to 15,000 square feet. And you have any number of small grocery stores that fall outside of the amendment set that Chair Schlegel brought. You have stores of varying sizes. There's not an average size, in my opinion, as there is for CVS or Walgreens. So this amendment certainly, in good faith, attempts to open it up to a lot more small businesses. If you have an amendment, Rep. Freiberg, or somebody else has an amendment, then bring it. What I'm telling you is that if this House, this afternoon, does not pass a Presley amended bill, no matter what is told to you on the Senate side, by 6 o'clock, it's going to need 2/3 vote, and it's not going to happen. And we're going to have the market we have today. So I'm standing here urging everyone, this is where the debate is. That, you know, we've agreed to the milligrams. I have to hold my nose. Listen, I was a 0. I wanted to stand with law enforcement on a 0, but I recognize that that's not where this body is. So what I'm urging you to do, I'm trying to do something. We're all trying to do something. If this doesn't meet it, then figure it out. But don't figure it out waiting for a Miller bill on the Senate floor that's going to need 2/3 vote. Let's do it now. Let's do it this afternoon. Let's do it here, because the reality is we're going to have the same hemp market we have currently, which is not regulated and which is dangerous.
My question to you was, why the 5,000 square feet and not 3,500 square feet, which would be more the average of a convenience store?
Because the 5,000 square feet, in my opinion, opened it up to some smaller stores. I do have concerns with convenience stores that, quite frankly, Rep. Freiberg, if you've listened to all the debate all session on different matters, being it the Whippets with the nitrous oxide, being the Kratom, being the gas station heroin, if you listen to all of that, where is that coming from? Where's the problem? It's in the convenience stores. It's just the reality. That's where our kids are going and getting it. Whether we say you have to be 21 or not, that's where our kids are getting it. Let's be honest. All right? So that's why I put 5,000 in a rush when I saw that this amendment, the other amendment wasn't going to fail, in an effort to open it up to some smaller stores. That's why. I'm trying to do something with the Presley bill here, even though I want 0, to at least put regulations in place. Because quite frankly, the rest of the regulations have been agreed to. And it's that square footage.
Thank you.
Rep. Miller for a question on the amendment.
Representative, I think in this body, I don't think there's anybody in here can say I ever lied to them or misled to them. So what I did say was, if the Senate did not pass anything, we can get the Speaker to pull this up by 5:30, and we would have time to do this before it's a 2/3 vote. So there's no way that I'm trying to stall to not get anything passed. So if anyone believes that's the play, it's not the play. I'm confident, speaking with the Senate President, how he wants the language saying convenience stores that sells gas, etc. We're going to accomplish all of this very shortly. If we don't, I'll pull the bill up myself at 5:30. That's what I was saying, so I don't want to get it confused. But on to your bill. I know we're rushing, trying to get something quick. Let me point out why I think we should stop rushing. On your amendment, the 17,500 language is still in the bill. Page 6, line 2. We need to slow down, and we just need to give this some time, and we will pass some hemp regulatory measures today. Thank you, members.
Thank you for pointing that out, Rep. Miller, and that is staff. It was not caught, and we certainly need to catch that, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Not an intent to leave that in. Certainly not an intent to suggest that you were stalling it, but rather that the realities of the way these bodies move, particularly on today, as I told people this morning, today was going to be a day, quite the day, because I liken it to the Thursday before Election Day. There is so much going on. You know there's so much going on. Quite frankly, when I was over there and everybody's talking to me, I couldn't even tell you what you said about what time you were going to bring it over the Senate or anything. Just, I know what happens today, and my concern certainly is that we will ultimately need a 2/3 vote, which, quite frankly, I just don't see us ever getting there. And my point is, we need regulations. We need them now. Whether I want to ban or not is immaterial. We need regulations.
Yes, ma'am, I agree, and I'm committed that by 6 o'clock today, we will pass some regulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rep. Thomas for a question on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Villio, I think I heard you say that law enforcement is in favor of these regulations. Did I hear that correctly?
You did not hear that correctly. Law enforcement stands on the Presley bill at 0%, and I would never suggest otherwise. When they put a floor note out on Rep. Schlegel's, I believe it was Rep. Schlegel's amendments early on, and to Chairman Miller's bill, and in my committee, law enforcement took a position, but it is only at 0%.
0%.
So I do not want to mislead anybody here, and will never do that to law enforcement. Law enforcement would want a ban, and that's
Would
why
want
I
a ban at
want it prohibited in
zero.
Presley's original bill, not as
Thank
amended.
you.
So
Thank
I
you
am
very
not
much.
Please don't anybody think that I said that they would support the amendments. They support a ban.
0.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can we do that?
Members, we're waiting on another set of amendment to be drafted.
Mr. Speaker and members, Representative Villio withdraws set number 5363 and now offers up set number 5366. That amendment should be posted online.
Okay, any other without objection on the withdrawal of the amendment, we have the new amendment up. Are there any questions on the new amendment? Rep. Ferment for the floor on the new amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I hadn't paid much attention to this bill. It hadn't been something I've been real focused on until I listened to the debate today. 3 years ago, we sat out here and the author of the bill that opened all this up said it'd take a truckload to get you high. Well, a bunch of junior high kids in Rapides Parish found them a truckload a couple weeks ago. Sent some of them to the hospital. That man's legacy, as far as I'm concerned, when I think about him, I think about him standing up here and saying it's going to take a truckload to get you high. Every one of us will leave here with a legacy. Every vote builds that legacy. Well, it's been disappointing for me to sit over here today and listen to the debate, because what I've heard is some of us value money over the safety of children. If we've got an opportunity to protect kids by adopting this amendment and passing this bill, why in the world wouldn't we do that? That's all I've got to say. Thank you. Waive questions.
Rep. Marcel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for the question.
All All right, there are no objections. Point of order. State your point.
Don't believe anybody spoke against the amendment.
No, I was in another conversation. You're right. So you cannot call the question unless someone came to the floor to speak against the amendment. Great job, Rep. Thomas. Rep. Miller for the floor on the amendment. See, we should have scheduled that to where you came first and then we let Marcel go second.
Members, Denise, you can come after I speak. I still stand where I'm at. This bill has sending things to alcohol wholesalers. It's still the same issue. We will fix this today. I'll say it again. There is a fix. I ask you to please, let's table this and we'll come back at the proper time of the day if we have to pass a bill.
Rep. Marcel for the floor on the bill.
Thank you, Representative Dustin Miller, for speaking against the bill. Now I call the question.
There are no further questions on the bill. You have a right. Hold on one second. Are there any objections to the adoption of the amendment? Can you come speak on your objection, Rep. Miller? Rep. Hughes, someone?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It goes without saying, Chairwoman Villio, I respect so much, and she is a dear friend. Members, when we start adopting amendments on the fly, we just caught a mistake in the amendment. You know, I know these amendments are being drafted with pure intentions, but I think we need to make sure we get this right before we find ourselves in the same position that we find ourselves in now. Yesterday, I spoke about people in this body being of their word, having trust, having integrity, and I trust Chairman Miller immensely. We have time before 6 o'clock. If things break down on the Senate side, we can amend the entire compromise into this bill and make sure we get something meaningful and right over the finish line. And so for the sake of getting this right and not repeating history, members, respectfully and with humility and deference to my friend, I object.
Rep. Villio, you have a right to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Rep. Hughes knows the great respect I have for him. Members, what is missing, and particularly new members, is consider the process. This is Senator Presley's bill that I am asking you to pass an amendment. So you know what happens next? If this amendment passes, it has to go to the Senate side, and they get to either reject or concur in the amendments. And they can continue the debate today on the Senate side, and they can make whatever amendments they need. So I'm asking you to please not get caught up in that, and not get caught up in the pride of authorship. The time is now, and we are running out. This is not the final say. If you pass this amendment, it'll go to the Senate side, and they can continue that debate, just as they could later with Chairman Miller's bill, but with the danger of time running out. I implore you to pass this amendment and let this conversation to continue on Senator Presley's bill. And it doesn't preclude Rep. Miller's bill on the other side if they choose to go forward with that as well. But don't stop this conversation on Senator Presley's bill. I implore you to adopt the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, members, Representative Villio has offered up a set of amendments which Representative Hughes has objected to. All those in favor of the amendment vote yea. All those opposed to the amendment vote nay. Madam Clerk, please open the machines. Members, vote your machines. Members, vote your machines. Villio, yea. Members, are you voting? The clerk will close the machine. 41 yeas, 55 nays, and the amendment fails. Next amendment.
Representative Schlegel moves to temporarily return Senate Bill 237 to the calendar.
Without objection.